for coming to Minnesota Transportation Museum's Adult Lecture Series for February. I'm really excited this month we have Molly Huber is here from the Minnesota Digital Library. She is the outreach coordinator over there and has been very kind in helping coordinate this presentation so that we can learn a little bit more about this resource and how we could utilize it, especially as we are working on building our digital archive as a team. She has been with the Minnesota Digital Library for 11 years, which is fantastic. She'll have so much knowledge to share with us. So please join me in welcoming Molly to present.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'm happy to be here to chat with you. All right, so today we'll be talking about what the Minnesota Digital Library is, how you can browse it. We're going to talk a little bit about some of our digital storytelling, including exhibits, primary source sets, maps, and timelines. We do have a Scan for Keeps program, which might fit into some of your digitization efforts. And then I have some selected examples of things related to trains, and then hopefully time to search live towards the end. Yeah, do whatever you need to do. All right. So the Minnesota Digital Library is made up of archival materials from nonprofit cultural heritage organizations like yours from all over the state. I am privileged to be able to visit many of them as a part of my job, like I'm coming to talk to you today. And these are pictures that I've taken on various site visits to a number of the organizations. And I kind of just want to, there's one in there, if you see the one of Santa and Mrs. Claus with two little boys on their lap, that is taken here about 11 years ago of my sons when they were much younger. And I brought them to see Santa and Mrs. Claus here at the Roundhouse one of the Christmases. So I dug that picture up. It was kind of fun to see that because they're now 14 and 18. So it was a while ago. But a lot of fun to be able to visit organizations. That's one of the best parts of my job. So the Minnesota Digital Library was founded. It actually started as a consortium of about 5 different organizations back in 2004. It was called Minnesota Reflections back then, and it was grant funded. We launched our website in 2005 with about 51 different contributors. And as I said, it was sort of a loose consortium of a number of organizations like the Iron Range Research Center and the University of Minnesota and the Minnesota Historical Society that really just wanted to not only digitize their own archives, but also help other organizations digitize their archives and make them available online, which was really pretty new at that time. There wasn't a lot of people doing that. So now, 20-some years later, we celebrate our 20th anniversary last year, which I'll talk about. We're administratively housed at the University of Minnesota, so that's where I'm based. Sometimes people think I'm with the Minnesota Historical Society, and I'm not. We work very, very closely with MNHS, but I'm actually part of the University of Minnesota Libraries. We have many, many projects. We have our main collection, which what used to be Digital Minnesota Reflections. We also have the digital storytelling projects that I'm going to talk about. We, as I said, sort of started out grant funded. Now our entire budget comes from legacy money. So we receive legacy money from the state of Minnesota, and then that funds our operations for digitizing and all the things we do. So as I mentioned, we got started with our 20th anniversary was last year. We counted it from when we first went live. It was really fun. We did a lot of special things to celebrate the anniversary. We had a Contributor's Choice exhibition featuring things from our founding contributors. We had other special recognition of our founding partners. So if you're curious, you can see we put badges on their landing pages on our website. We had cake at our annual meeting. We did oral histories, which are now an exhibit. So there's a lot of information about the founding of MDL and what we've been doing for the last 20 years. So we're just very excited to have reached that milestone. We're one of the oldest statewide digital collections in the country, actually. So we got going pretty early with that. So have any of you used the Minnesota Digital Library? Show of hands. Woohoo! One person has used it. Yay! That's great. You know, it's not unusual for me to go to a group and most people have not used it if they've even heard of it. So that's part of why I like to come to organizations like yours and talk to groups like yours, because I don't want to be the best kept secret anymore. I often get in a place where I feel that that's what's happening when it's such a great resource that's available for free that anyone can use. So I want more people to be aware of it. We have all different types of materials that you can find, including photographs, maps, letters, books, architectural drawing. We have many audiovisual materials, and we're starting to accept some more born digital materials as well. One of the only things we don't collect is newspapers, and that's the only reason we don't collect newspapers is because the Minnesota Historical Society, who I mentioned we work closely with, kind of in a collaborative sort of way and alongside each other, they have a newspaper hub, and they are working to collect all the newspapers that are published in Minnesota. So we just don't want to compete with them. We used to have newspapers, but we gave them all to the Historical Society, and we direct people over there. So like I said, most everything else, though, we have. And you can search around in lots of ways. Here they are. You can browse by topic, contributor, format, those three big boxes in the screenshot I just showed you. You can search through one of our topic-based digital curation projects. You can put something in the search bar. You can just kind of enter the collection, look around. Once you start, there are lots of options. So lots of ways to search. It's a fun collection to browse around. If you do just go in, so for example, this is one of our newer contributors, the Wright County Historical Society. This is a vision of a search that's like, okay, what has Wright County contributed? Turns out they have contributed about 77 things, including lots of images of old schoolhouses, and then 2 plat maps of Wright County. So once you're into this section, you can narrow it down by a number of ways. You can say, oh, I just want to look at the pictures that they've sent, or I just want to see those 2 maps, or I want to see things only in this time frame. So on the side of the thing there, you can see that there's lots of ways to narrow down your search once you're in, if you choose to. You can also, you can do this view, which shows just the picture and a title. There's a more detailed view, which has the image of what the record is and more information about it, so you can decide if you want to go in or not. There's lots of different ways to look around. Once you have selected a record to look at more closely, there's a lot of more information in each record. So, for example, this is a handcart on the Sioux Line Railroad in Becker. And it was taken, there might be information about who took it, when it was taken, where specifically in Becker County it was taken, as much information as the contributor had to share with us. When we take new materials in, we really work closely with each of the contributors to have them describe the things, because in a digital library, different than say coming to a place like this where you can like walk around and look at the trains, or if you're at a library you can say, oh, I'm going to browse the stacks and look at books that interest me. It's really important with a digital library that you have good descriptive words that allow you to find the stuff, because you can't just page through. And like right now, the MDL is up to over 61,000 records, so you can't, again, it's a lot of stuff to just look at, so it's helpful to have those descriptive words to really try and figure out what I'm looking for and how to find it. Everything that's in the Minnesota Digital Library is also in a national collection called the Digital Public Library of America. And I mentioned that a couple times now, that MDL was one of the early collections of this type, started 20 years ago, really focused, we only do Minnesota stuff. It's got to be in, of, or about Minnesota to be part of MDL. However, a number of people, there are a number of other states that do the same thing. And it was recognized that it would be really valuable to have a national aggregation of the same type of thing. So the Digital Public Library of America started in 2014, and they work with organizations like ours. So we aggregate for the state of Minnesota, and then we send our stuff up to the Digital Public Library of America. So all of the Minnesota stuff that we collect is also then findable in conjunction with stuff from collections all over the country, including collections from other states, from the National Records and Archives Administration, from the Getty, from a lot of other really large organizations. So that's something that's exciting too, that stuff, you can find Minnesota stuff in that context, and then you can also find other stuff related to Minnesota that maybe people from other states or areas have contributed. So that's a fun option as well. So I mentioned there's like 60-some thousand things that we have, and it's a lot. It's great. You can really get lost in there, have a good time. You could spend a whole afternoon easily just getting lost in our resources. And that was our first focus, just like, let's just get stuff digitized, let's get it up there, let's get it accessible. But when you get to a certain size, it gets to be a little unwieldy, right? That's a lot of stuff. So we started undertaking different projects to kind of provide some different entry points into the Minnesota Digital Library and ways to easily find stuff about topics you're interested in. So one of our first things that we started doing was these things called primary source sets, where we take between 9 and 20 primary source items that we have in MDL about a particular topic, and we kind of put them all together. And then we have an introduction, and we put it all together. We select a few things related to the topic, And then we have we have discussion questions. We package it with discussion questions and like thinking analytical questions and resources, not only from just general resources that are available to everyone, but also resources that are available for free to Minnesota residents through the e-Library of Minnesota, which is something my colleagues at Minitex work on. So each of these primary source sets, we launched with like 6, probably about 8 years ago, has all these elements. They have a kind of an introduction, the primary source sets themselves, and additional resources so you can learn more. Like I said, we launched with about 6. We're now up to 44. We try and create a few more of these every year and add to our collection. They are somewhat meant for educators, but also for the general public. So if you're just interested in finding out more about a topic, this is a good place to start. So it is interesting, though, with the primary source sets and all the things that we cover, it is important to state that we only include stuff that's in MDL. And we're kind of a funny thing in that the Minnesota Digital Library, we don't collect ourselves. We work with collecting organizations. So we aggregate collections that other people have and are willing to share. So for example, we don't have a primary source set about like Charles Schultz or F. Scott Fitzgerald, or some things that people are like, well, why don't you have more information about that? It's like, well, because we haven't had a contributor share that with us yet. It's not that we're not open to it, but we aren't out there in a position where we can fill gaps. We kind of have to wait and see what other organizations have and want to share. So if there's something that's missing, that's why. So our online exhibits, we did the primary source sets for a few years. They were pretty popular. Like, well, hey, let's keep going. Let's see what else we can do. So we, in 2020, started doing online exhibits. And these online exhibits are much more detailed than a primary source set. Again, they're on topics of Minnesota history that are well represented in MDL collections. But they're much more like an exhibit that you'd go to in a physical place. So they have a lot more content, a lot more explanatory text, equivalent to like panels you'd read on a wall. There's a lot more. It's not just 9 to 20 things. It's many things in different sections. So it's much more thorough, much deeper dive into the topic at hand. Again, we launched with, I think, 3 of those, and we're now up to, I believe, 23. So we're continuing to try and add 1 or 2 exhibits as well every year to kind of keep the content fresh and keep things moving and further showcase the many things that we have. On a slightly different note, we also have maps and timelines. So not everything lends itself to being geographically located or set in time, but things that do. That's another way to interact with different parts of MDL and what we have. So for example, like on the screen here, you can see we have a timeline of different colleges and universities in Minnesota and when they were founded. We also have one about Carnegie libraries. And we have I'm trying to remember all of them. We have 7 timelines and 6 maps, and they show different aspects and different ways of interacting with Minnesota history and putting things in a different place. So like the map, as you can see from this example, you can trace different sites along the Mississippi River. We also have one of CCC camps and things like that. So again, just different ways to interact with the collection of what we have. For an organization like yours, this isn't something we usually do for individuals. It sounds like you do have your own digitization program, but we do also have scanning kits that we can lend out for free if people want to do that, or if you want to host a community event and don't want people scanning stuff on your equipment. We do loan out scanners and things that you could say, bring in your favorite photos, we'll scan them for you here, if you want people to do that. So that is something that is an option. It is called our Scan for Keep program. My colleague Stephanie administers that, but it's another way that we can serve people and promote preservation of history in Minnesota. I thought you might be wondering, we do have a primary source set about trains. So that was one of our early ones. We do have a fair amount of rail-related resources. This one particularly has, like I mentioned, most have between 9 and 20 some items. This has 24 representative examples of our literally thousands of resources related to railroads and trains, plus, as I mentioned, the discussion questions, e-Library Minnesota resources, and links to additional books, articles, and web resources. So feel free to check it out. And if there's additional resources you think maybe we should be linking to, we do add to these and update them, so feel free to let me know. I didn't put this one together myself, but it was one of our founding primary source sets. I mentioned we have a lot of resources related to trains. and rail. General search for train and MDL leads 7,796 results. Mostly text, about 6,000 that is text, but we also have almost 900 recordings, almost 700 images, 62 moving images, 44 maps, and even some train-related music. Railroad, the search for a railroad, yields 8,744 results, some overlapping, with over 4,000 images, almost 400 text items, 448 sound recordings, 285 maps, and 16 oral histories. So I thought it'd be fun in the following slides just show you some examples of some of these thousands of resources that we have. So this is the first one. It's engine number 7716 in Thief River Falls. We have a train at the depot in Worthington. Some Great Northern Railroad cars in Morris. I said stuff is represented from all over the state. We have quite a few things from Brainerd. Lots of things from the shops and lots of railroad-related things from Brainerd. So this is the view of the railroad planing mill and car shops in Brainerd with the Northern Pacific furniture cars in the foreground. Four men on a motorized railroad car. This was also in Brainerd. This is a ventilator refrigerator car in Duluth. This image was taken in 1947 at the St. Paul Midway Central Warehouse Company. Switching yard, engine in the switching yard in Worthington. We have quite a few from Worthington as well. Sometimes it depends on, like I said, who shared stuff with us. We have a lot from Duluth, too, but that didn't surprise me because Duluth. But Brainerd again. Lots from Brainerd. This was taken in Rochester at about 1900, engine 1426. Sometimes when you see, like in this picture, I didn't include it here, but one of the gentlemen is identified. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So, and this is Northern Pacific locomotives number 1 and number 20. Mr. Emerson of the Northern Pacific Railroad Company is in the group at the right. And it's sort of what the organizations feel is important to share. They know their stuff more than we do. This was taken in Keewaydin, Minnesota in 1955. There's, of course, many, many, many photos of train wrecks. Lots. If we have time to search after this, we can look for train wrecks if you wish. So I included a couple of some of the more notable ones. So this is 3 cars, the description is 3 cars off the tracks and down the side of a short hill. A crane is in the process of moving the engine and a crew of workers are seen amongst the cars. A large group of spectators are gathered along the side of the hill and around the tracks. As you can see them up, a lot of people watching. And the wreck occurred on Carl Petch's farm in 1915. This other one I thought was pretty interesting too. So this, again, Brainerd, train wreck right in front of the Northern Pacific Hospital. So the hospital is in the background, and the train is right there, and there are people all over that wreck. So a lot of maybe people coming out of the hospital to see what's going on, people from the town. Very dramatic. This is a photo of the railroad park and depot in Glencoe. And it's actually also, I thought it was worth noting, that's a real photo postcard. So someone thought this, there was a very common thing in the early 20th century to take photos and then you could have them made and you'd take it yourself or a local photographer would take it and then you could have it made into a postcard that then you could send to people. So someone clearly thought this was that someone would want to have a postcard of the railroad park and depot from Glencoe. And in fact, I think there is some writing on the back of it. If we go to the record, it would show both sides, but I just want to show you the picture. This is in Glenwood, Sioux Line Railroad Yards in Glenwood. We also have this of the shop in Proctor, working on about 5 engines there, some other things going on. So we also have stuff beyond just the engines and the tracks themselves. We have, for example, this is a freight bill from something that was shipped to the Redwood Falls Public Library via the Minneapolis and St. Louis Railroad Company. So a bill of sale, a freight bill, excuse me. We have, as I mentioned, sort of a number of oral histories and related to trains and railroads. For example, James McPortland, according to his own account here that I excerpted, he worked for the Soo Line for many years, mostly as a conductor. And he was a switchman before that from the Northern Pacific. So there's information about different people and their different jobs for the railroads. They have a number of catalogs of things you can buy. Catalog machinery, supplies, tools for railroad use. So you can look up things that were for sale for railroads and railroad work. So again, if you're doing your own search, you can, as I said, do by topic, contributor format, put your search in the search bar, lots of different facets, and then there's transcripts too. So any questions at this time? No? All right. Well, let's do a little live searching. I'll show you that primary source set first. So you can see there's an intro, some intro text about the 3 major railroads in Minnesota, some representative examples of things that we have, mostly images. And some other things. Here's another one about another oral history of a Northern Pacific Railroad employee. Railroad Commissioner's Map of Minnesota in 1914. An ad for the Northern Pacific. And then here are those questions, kind of more for educators, and different resources that you could use. Quite a few on railroads, unsurprising. So I was going to search train wreck, but do you want me to search something else? Just because the pictures are fun. And sorry, and it does this because with the growth of AI, sites like ours are often crawled by bots who are trying to scrape information, and sometimes it crashes our site. So we've set up a security thing to keep the AI bots and keep our site functioning. So if you do encounter that, that's why. It should briefly, sometimes just a brief interruption, and it'll take you to our collection. Sometimes you have to click a little box. But if you're looking around yourself, that's why that's there. It's just because of AI bots. All right. 604 results related to train wrecks, of which 56 are images. I'm just going to see if we can scroll. So there's different scrolling options. The default is that you only see 25 images at a time. I actually like to see 100 so I can just keep going. But you can select it how you wish. So you could do 25, 100, or 50. As I mentioned, you can search like this if you want to see more information about each item. I'll scroll down a little. So see, it shows the picture smaller, but then it also gives you information about what it is. So this is one in Wyndham that happened in September of 1899. Kind of gives you a description, tells you who shared it. If I'm just looking at a lot of things quickly, I often use the other view because then I can see more things at once. There we go. So some of these are mining train wrecks or trains. Parts of a wrecked train at Wells. There's a Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad accident in Odessa. Oops. Oops, sorry about that. A little awkward here. I don't love my touchpad. It's not my favorite. So, and once you get into a record like that, actually is written right on the photograph, you can also make it large like that. And again, like I said, I don't love my touchpad, but you can actually get in more sometimes. Let's see. So, oh, there we go. There, the plus and minus came up over there when there. So you can zoom in, get a better view of, wow, what really did happen there. Look at those people standing by the train. everything shared on our website is also available for download, not at a high resolution, but if you wanted to use it for your own uses, even if it's in copyright, as long as you kind of just keep it for personal educational use. But a picture like this one is probably out of copyright. Let's see. Yep, see this symbol right here, one over here, means that there's no copyright in the United States. So this can be used freely. Again, if you were going to be using it for anything, it would be nice if you'd credit the Minnesota Digital Library. Would be great, so if that's where you found it. But it's really important too that you credit the contributing organization, because Crow Wing County Historical Society would, it's their image, and they'd like to acknowledge that it's theirs. What? Yeah, go ahead. What's that?
Is it free to download?
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally free. There's a button right there. And it's not going to download something you can blow up to a poster. It wouldn't look good as a poster. But you could use it, you could use it like a presentation like this, or just have on your own computer. And when it's on the website, as you can see, you can actually zoom in. If you don't download it, you can zoom in great detail, because that's a very high resolution image that we make available on our website. So if you want to really get into the granularity of the image, you can get real close, as long as you're looking at it through our website, which is also free and can be used anywhere. Like some resources, like the E-Library of Minnesota, you have to be in Minnesota to use it. If you are out of town and for some reason you want to pull up the Minnesota Digital Library, if you're down in Florida enjoying the warm weather, you can still access the Minnesota Digital Library from there for free. So we're available everywhere. What else should I look for? Anyone want to shout anything out? Yeah, what?
Railroad-related music as well?
Yeah, let's find that out. It was just one thing. We don't have a lot of music because of copyright. You have to be really careful with music and copyright. That's one of the few things we don't have much of. All right. Sound recording, musical. Well, it says it's an interview and a presentation, so maybe there is music as part of that. But it says it's sound recording musical, but then also oral history. So that also might just be a mistake. You had a question. Is there something you wanted me to search for?
Is all the music in there, is it all Minnesota related?
Everything in here is Minnesota related.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of our rules.
You only accept material from organizations like here, or so
Yes.
the person had a bunch of photos themselves.
Right.
they had to submit it.
You have to submit it to an organization. Yeah, that is also, and only a nonprofit organization. We don't work with individuals. It's a good question.
We're just at the very beginning stages of digitizing the stuff that we have.
Yep.
As we build up this body of stuff, is that the kind of thing you guys would be interested in adding to your?
If you'd like to, yes, for sure. Yep, and you don't have to wait till you've built it up. You could start now. Because you wouldn't, if you want me to get in the nuts and bolts of it, it's actually because, remember I said that we need that descriptive information before we can put anything online. So if you wait, I usually say to people, particularly organizations, when they're doing a first project, keep it to just like 20 to 50 items, because you're going to have to find the time to describe it all. So it's better to start small, and then we take multiple projects. There's no limit to the number of projects you do with us, even in 1 year. It just, we encourage you to, I don't want you to have too many open projects, because then that's hard for you. And we want to get your stuff up and shared. So whatever makes it easier. What else?
So then do you have any suggestions for us as we're starting our process? Because we've started taking some pictures of things that are up here on this floor.
Okay.
And with the program that we're using, we have a title and we have categories and tags and whatever we can glean from the provenance of the item and that kind of thing. Is there anything else that we should, other than the description piece, is there anything else that we should really consider as we're starting our process?
In terms of the description itself, or in terms of your process, or?
Yes.
Yes. One of the first things I would say is, what format are you digitizing things in?
You're talking about JPEG or?
Yeah, JPEG or TIFF
JPEG
or,
right now.
okay, I would not do that. JPEG is I would say do everything in TIFF. And if you're starting it now, start with that.
Okay.
Because JPEG is a highly compressed format, and you tend to lose a lot of information. It's not always as durable over time. Everything that we have in here is in TIFFs, which are a lot bigger. And think about storage too. That's a really important consideration. Think about how and where you're going to store things, knowing that TIFFs are a large format. It is good to have JPEGs for access, but if you're digitizing something as an archival thing, I would say use a TIFF. I don't know if you're digitizing more for access or more for archival. Yes. So then you would do a TIFF. I would highly recommend a TIFF, and then you can make a JPEG from a TIFF. But you can't make it, if you make a TIFF from a JPEG, it's got the same problems as a JPEG. Yeah, it's not worthwhile. But you can always take the TIFF and make a smaller access file out of it. Also consider you will want to store your things in more than one location, and be thoughtful about that. So and don't keep it on like a jump drive is not storage. I recently had a contributor from a long time ago, I will not name who they were, come back to me and say, oh, those CDs you gave us years ago are deteriorating. And it's like, you didn't put them on anything else? And they're like, no. And it's like, oh, okay, well, here. Well, and we do have a brochure of tips for organizations on how to approach digital preservation. One of the things that's a benefit of working with us is we do preserve everything that's shared with us. So you would share your own masters, but we would also share it. We partner with the University of Minnesota, and they're, like I mentioned, I'm located at the University of Minnesota Libraries, and they give us space in their archival preservation. So everything that's shared with the Minnesota Digital Library is preserved at a very high level. It's all, when we scan it, it's all TIFFs, and that's the thing too. I know you are doing your own digitization program, which is great. If you did want to work with us, we would scan everything for you for free. So, and at no cost to you, that's part of what the legacy money is, and we would scan it at TIFFs and then give you copies of the TIFFs. So if there are things that you would like to share and have us do for you, that is an easy process as well. You'd do the same kind of, we'd help you with the description parts that we needed to get there. So.
What about, you said that you would share with different groups the items that we might need to be able to scan. So is that stuff that we bring to you, or can we borrow like a light?
You could borrow it from us too. Mm-hmm. We do have, I'll show you so we have scanning kits that we lend out to organizations for periods of up to a number of months. They're also for free. We have large format and small format scanners, and they come with a laptop and a light box and things like that. So you just need to contact my colleague Stephanie Hess to get on the calendar. And they have their own shipping case. I mean, you're nearby, you could pick it up, but we loan them out all over the states. So sometimes we're sending them off. Sometimes, you could pick it up. We could potentially bring it over. But yes, so if you wanted to borrow these, if you wanted to do more scanning at one time, if you wanted to have an event for your own self, if you wanted to have an event for the community, these are also available. Yeah. So yeah, and in terms of working with the Minnesota Digital Library and what you should be scanning first, I always tell people too is, or not working with the Minnesota Digital Library, scan what's important to you. If there's stuff that's really high access that people really ask questions about a lot, if there's stuff that's maybe, the condition is maybe deteriorating, when people handling it a lot of times part of why people do oral histories with us is they can't listen to the cassette tapes anymore. So then we digitize it and they can hear it. It's accessible again for the first time, sometimes in decades. Things like that. So sometimes people come to us, or you can prioritize tricky formats. It is something people do come to us for AV a lot because AV digitizing is expensive, as you know. And we'll cover that. Sorry. So that's a thought too. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny to think about, photographs and paper are much more durable than digital. You have to be really careful with digital. And you think about how many, even just digital formats, like I was talking about cassette tapes, how many formats of things we've gone through in our lifetimes of, let's say LP records and cassette tapes and CD, all these different things. And, so it's always important too, even if you do digitize, to keep your originals, because they may be able to be scanned with better technology at some point in the future that we don't know about now. So. We still have a little time yet? Any more? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, could you do a search for Dan Patch?
Yep, we have a lot of Dan Patch stuff.
Okay, the second picture.
Of the Dan Patch 100? You want that one? Okay.
That's great.
Do you want me to zoom in?
The actual locomotive is sitting right over there
Oh, really?
in the corner.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so, you're welcome to download this if you want. Or contact, if you want a high-res, contact I think it's Scott County probably. Oh, the Streetcar Museum. They're pretty receptive to stuff.
Shoot a picture of as it is now and send it to
Well, yeah, or if you do your social media, you can do it then and now, or, again, it'd be nice if you'd say where you found it, or tag us, but, yeah.
Red, white, and blue,
Okay,
from World War II.
That's a World War
okay,
II picture.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're selling war bonds.
Ah,
That is cool.
yay.
So you got a bunch of
I don't know that we have a bunch of the car, we have a bunch of the horse.
yeah.
Yeah. But clearly we have some of the car as well. And I think the first one right before this was passengers getting off of the Dan Patch. Let's see. Dan Patch passengers, so yeah, maybe they're not on the train itself. Yeah, but so there's people kind of at the end of the train. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Taken. See, and that's another one of those photo postcards I was telling you about. Someone made that into a postcard in case I wanted to send it to someone. Like, hey, I rode this train. Maybe 1911, that was their best guess when that was taken. Any other train cars in here you want me to look up? Transfer depot. So there's a depot. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Again, this is just being a little slow. It hasn't fully loaded yet. I'll give it a minute. There we are.
So that was the end of the line of the streetcar system,
Uh-huh.
and then the Dan Patch conversion line took over from there to the south. That's why that
Okay.
was transferred.
Okay, got it. Yeah, this is from 1912. Here's a railroad engine of the Dan Patch line. That's different then too, huh? Oh, again, it's loading, sorry. So this is from Blue Earth County, down in Mankato area. Yeah, there's not any other information about that. Other than C.J. Snow took the picture down in Mankato, and it says it's the Dan Patch Railroad line, number 200. Yeah.
The first people here was the William Crooks.
Yep, we have some of the William Crooks. We don't have as many of the William Crooks as I would like, but we do have at least one, I remember. All right, so we have a photo of William Crooks himself as well. But yeah, we have looks like 5 images of the William Crooks engine. one with James J. Hill at it. I think that's our best one. That's the one I remember. Yeah. The other ones have people. And
You have that in color too?
nope. This is what we got. What you see is what we have. So.
If the original one happened to be in color, then you have
Yes. Yep. We scan everything as it comes to us. So that would be the same if anything you shared with us. We scan it as it is. We don't alter it. It just try and capture it in its state, current state. So if it's color, it's color. If it's black and white, it's black and white. If it has a rip in it, it has a rip in it. But we don't alter anything to make it look better. So that's another thing to think about is you can choose whatever you want. If it's historically important and it looks bad, we'll still take it. But sometimes people are like, well, this looks better. So you want to maybe think about things that look decent, because then that represents your organization better. If you're not digitizing absolutely everything. Oops.
So you're not able to like clean things up at all.
Nope, we don't. So yeah, whatever the condition of the original is how it will look.
So that picture had a little spot.
Yep, it does. A couple of them, actually. Yeah.
And the bottom was a little border damage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
But that would have been how the original looked.
that's, yeah, you're accurate to what
Yep.
the original was.
Yep, exactly. We're
That's
trying to.
still a very useful, great picture.
Yeah, and that's from the New Brighton Area Historical Society.
When was that taken?
Let's see if they knew. 1938.
Yeah.
Yep.
So which when it was on tour
Yeah.
later in its life.
Yep. And some of the other ones, though, were probably when it was more in use, like when James J. Hill was with it. I don't know either. I mean, and again, sometimes the organization are making their best guess, too. So. We do also take corrections. If someone sees something in the metadata that an organization supplied and said, actually, that's not correct, you're welcome to submit it to us, and we'll contact the organization and say, hey, we heard that this might not be correct. Are you okay with us making that change? We have a couple more minutes. One more search? Do another one? Or other questions?
Broadening this,
Yeah.
you talked about, okay, Minnesota Digital Library. What is the,
Oh, the Digital Public Library of America. We could look at that. Sure. So this is the national one. It's dp.la. Everything that's in MDL plus a number of other things from Minnesota, because we have our collection of 61-some thousand records. We also work with organizations like the Minnesota Historical Society or the Hennepin County Library that have large digital collections of their own. And we put our collection and we also lift up their collections to the Digital Public Library of America. So there's over 1 million things from Minnesota in DPLA. And then there's Minnesota stuff that's from other states too. So let's see what happens if I put in William Crooks here. Probably be more stuff. Again, there's photographs of William Crooks himself. All right, so here's the William Crooks out in Seattle, for example, from the University of Washington. So for this, you can't get a big image. When you work with the Digital Public Library of America, it doesn't give you a big image like MDL does. It just points you back to where they find where the big image is located, in this case, somewhere in Washington. So if I click on View Full Item, it'll actually take us somewhere else, which it's loading. Oh, there it is. There we are. So see, there's the big image there. And there it is in Seattle. It says 1909. Again, different organizations have different levels of description that they collect, but it's pretty similar to what we asked for too. Well, thank you so much for coming to listen to me talk today. I really appreciate it. Great pleasure talking to you.